97.3 ESPN presents The Sports Bash with Mike Gill. It's time for Football at 4 with Geoff Mosher, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast.
I love coaching this football team. I love coaching those players in there.
Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast and brought to you by PlaySugarHouse.com. Sign up now. They'll match your first deposit up to $250. Geoff Mosher in on the Friday. We'll get his thoughts on this game, the matchups, the tape, the film, what they've seen at InsideTheBirds.com. Don't forget the Inside the Birds pregame show. It's a 425 game. They got a bunch of these 425 games coming up here, so we'll have to ask Moshe when are you guys going live with the Inside the Birds pregame show?
That would be 1 o'clock, my friends. 1 o'clock. Inside the Birds, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook platforms.
There you go. Social media platforms, Inside the Birds. Go to @InsideBirds. You can watch it on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. So Moshe, Kaplan, Trey Thomas, Greg Cosell, great breakdown for you starting at 1 o'clock. And we have the game live for you here at 425 on 97.3 ESPN. All right, so we got a lot to get into here. I want to get your opinion on this because I can't figure out who benefits from the news coming out that Pederson has not been calling the plays. Well, not all the plays, some of the plays, and that kind of clouds it even more if you ask me.
Yeah, I don't think anybody really benefits from knowing publicly beforehand. You know, when you go back to 2008, when 2006, I'm sorry, when Andy Reid gave up play calling to Marty Mornhinweg, and my memory's a little jogged. It's almost 15 years now, but I'm pretty sure that didn't come out immediately. Andy didn't come into the press conference and announce, "Hey, I'm giving up play calls to Marty Mornhinweg." I think that was something that was either leaked or came about a couple of weeks later, especially as the team started to do a little bit differently, and then Andy addressed it afterward. But certainly, very few people very few coaches advertise it going into it. Even I don't think Adam Gase even said it. He was going to do it until after it was done. And then, boy, he had some wacky press conference recently where he tried to explain whether or not he was or was not calling the plays.
Well, you saw it happen in Chicago too, where Nagy. Right. It's almost if Pederson and Nagy had the same script. Like, I got to do what's best, and even if that means replacing myself. I mean, so Doug has been pretty steadfast, though, that I like calling plays. There's no reason to change that. And then, voila, here we go. Oh, I haven't even been calling the plays. So why for the last 3 weeks, if apparently he hasn't been calling all the plays, would he have stayed in this role of, I'm having fun, I enjoy doing it, I don't think it's a problem? It just seems like I don't even know how to describe why this would come out now, and that if Pederson's side let that out, the front office knows who's calling the plays in the middle of the game, right? I mean, they wouldn't be like, "Oh, wait a second here, are you calling the plays?" Or it just seems that there's no benefit here. That Pederson for the last couple of weeks has been steadfast on, I enjoy doing this, I'm calling the plays, and then all of a sudden today, he was even kind of weird about it today. Like, well, I'm still the play caller. It seems like he still doesn't want to turn that over to say, well, look, Press is doing a good job. We're going to let him call the plays. And if Press was going to be the guy, how did he jump up the list? That's another odd part about this whole thing.
Oh, that was a great rant there, Mike. You're right on a lot of the accounts. I think that there's two things at play here. One, I think because the Eagles did not look very good offensively against Seattle, they were in the game, but they didn't look great offensively. Doug would probably be reluctant to talk more about it because Doug is still kind of a shielder of his coaches, as many head coaches are. And I think that if he were to have said something and volunteered the information, that would have just been ammunition for people to say, well, see, even Press Taylor stinks, or even so-and-so can't get the job done. That's how bad of a coaching staff this is. So Doug still puts it all on himself for that reason. And to your point about what he said today, I do think that Doug still sees himself as the play caller, even when he's handing off certain situational plays to, be it Press Taylor or Rich Gangarella or whoever it may be. I think he still feels like, even though he's just giving up a few situational play calls to some assistants to see if things change in that area, that he is still the primary play caller, and he wants that to be known because he prides himself, as you heard him say, on being the primary play caller. So I think if he starts talking about other guys calling plays, it gives the appearance that he is no longer the sheriff in town, and I don't think he wants to lose that distinction himself.
Well, looking ahead, it was reported that you might see more of Press Taylor calling plays on Sunday. What should we expect from that, or does nobody know, similar to the whole Jalen Hurts debacle?
What we should expect, I guess, based on precedent, is about 17 points a game. Yeah, I mean, look, the only thing that was discernibly different, from, I guess, last week compared to other games is that really, for the most part, Carson was able to protect the football. He threw one interception. It came in the fourth quarter, and I really believe that they're truthful when they called that a route miscommunication issue that really falls on the shoulders of Dallas Goedert more than Carson Wentz. Other than that, there wasn't a whole lot of sloppy, he's not getting hit like against Cleveland when he should have thrown the ball and then the ball's up in the air and a linebacker returns it. And it's not like what you saw the first 6 or 7 weeks where there was a massive amount of fumbles. And the only bad thing that you saw, and here's the thing, we don't know who to really put the blame on, is that they had I think they throw the touchdown at the end of the half that gets it close, cuts the lead in half, basically, if Elliott had made the PAT. Then they're driving.
So are we supposed to give credit to Scangarello for that touchdown? Because that's in the last 2 minutes.
Right, exactly. That I was going to bring that up. That was a situation, but then they came out at the top of the third quarter and drove the ball down the field again, and it looked like, they had a really good opportunity to tie the game there if they throw a touchdown, but on a third down screen, that had to be the most embarrassing play maybe of the year. And that's hard to say, but you see everybody on the 10 guys on the offense block and execute as if there's going to be a left side screen. And for whatever reason, there's nobody there to catch the screen. I never really got whose fault that was or whose communication that was on. I feel like Boston Scott, who was still next to the quarterback, was probably meant to go across the line of scrimmage and catch that football, but never did. But that just kind of took the wind out of their sails right there, and they had to settle for the field goal. But I don't know who's per se calling the shots on that, but it did show you that they were moving. They moved the ball at the end of the first half, and then they moved the ball again at the start of the third quarter. So it looked like there was some rhythm and some flow going on there, and then it just, one play completely botched that.
What do you make of what happened with the Hurts stuff? I mean, are you surprised? I'm not really surprised. Like, I thought it was going to be this whole thing all week long. You heard about it, and it went exactly the way that I thought. It did not seem like Doug Pederson had any indication that he was going to or wants to play Hurts anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think what happened was that the game was close, Mike, and that, again, he made it a one. Carson, they are trying to fix Carson here, and they're running out of time to do it. And it's 14-0, right? And then again, Carson puts points on the board. He hadn't been turning the ball over. So now you got a one-possession game. And again, you drive down the field to start the third quarter. You get the field goal. Probably should have a touchdown, but now you're chipping away. The only thing Seattle does from that point on is kick field goals itself. So you're always in it. You're literally a play away from making it a game. And then, of course, at the end, they get the prayer touchdown. But I don't think they are going to do it, meaning going to Jalen for a really long period of time, unless the offense is kind of like what we saw for the first 5 or 6 weeks. You got like 2 interceptions, a fumble, the game's getting out of hand. It's not within reach. And you might see that Sunday, obviously, against the Packers. I think that would be one of those situations where you're going to see Jalen Hurts come in and probably give Carson a little bit of a break there and let him kind of decompress.
What are you seeing out of Travis Fulgham? Is this just, hey, he's losing snaps to Alshon because Alshon's just getting thrown in there? Or is he coming back to reality a bit, or teams game planning for him more? I mean, the guy was lighting the league on fire, and I don't expect him to be that all the time, of course, but what happened?
I think that they're making a big mistake, and when I say they, it's hard to point the finger at one specific person because I think all are involved, but whether it's Doug Pederson or whether it's Carson Wentz, they have to make a concentrated effort to get the ball in his hands early on. I mean, I think in the last 3 games, he's gone significant amount of minutes without a target. And this is a kid who's not reached the level of of a Devontae Adams or a top 10 receiver who can just kind of, I feel like, disappear in the offense and then all of a sudden come through with a bunch of catches. I mean, I know he did that in his first game with that 42-yarder against San Francisco, but that was really the beginning for him, and they were building on it and building on it. And I told you guys this coming – I remember talking about this coming out of the bye week. I said my biggest fear was that for a young kid to become kind of a sudden star like this, that the coaching staff and the offense, they had to make sure every week that he's prepared to be the man and go through whatever ups and downs and extra coverage or tighter coverage he might get. And I felt like the coaching staff really has to – and I talked to somebody who played in the NFL about this, about the idea of having your coaching staff have certain plays that are called your Travis Fulgham plays. And you have to go to your Travis Fulgham plays early and say, you know what, this is the play. It's designed to go to Travis Fulgham. It's not about where the open receiver is or taking what the defense gives. We're literally creating packages where the ball is quickly in Travis Fulgham's hands. They should have a Travis Fulgham playbook, a set of plays, and a Jalen Reagor set of plays, and it doesn't feel like they're doing that. It feels like they're just doing the let's take what the defense gives things, which is fine. You want to do that most of the game, but you've got to get your young playmakers invested early because they're young. You know, they want to go out and make plays, and their body language is going to suggest frustration and disappointment if it's the third quarter and they're only seeing the ball for the first time. So I feel like this has been a failure of the coaching staff and of Carson to not get them the ball early and get them in the flow.
Yeah, I know there's so much to be made of the play calling. Sal said it's not so much the play calling as it is the play designer, that guy needs to be looked at more. But you guys talked about this on a recent episode of Inside the Birds, that Carson Wentz's mechanics and field vision are an issue. And, you know, one of the things that I'm kind of coming and seeing a lot of is the indecisiveness is forcing him to be inaccurate, and the inability to read the defenses is all encompassing to a lot of problems for Wentz that I'm concerned that it's more than play calling when I watch Wentz play. The play calling could be better. It could help him out more. But what are you guys seeing with the mechanics and the field vision and how that is impacting his struggles?
It's amazing that you asked that because there's one play I've focused on from the Seattle game that really encompasses all of it, Mike. And we at Inside the Birds have been working with a group called Leverage Studios, and they produce these telestrated, very professionally telestrated videos for our Sunday pregame show, which is another reason people should watch it because we are doing that specifically on Carson Wentz and all of the missed opportunities. And we have about 6 or 7 clips that show what you're talking about. One, mechanics not being sound, and 2, the field vision not being there. And if you remember the play against Seattle on Monday night where he threw a deep pass down the right side to Dallas Goedert that got tipped by the linebacker, Bobby Wagner, right? You see everything that's gone wrong with Carson Wentz on that one play. And basically, to make it short, the play design itself was very good. It was a lot of verticals against a cover 3 look, which is normally how you beat a cover 3. You get vertical routes and guys down the seams, and you make that one safety have to play one side of the field. There's only one safety. He's got to either guard the right side or the left side. So if you look to the right side, you can go back to your left side. If you look to the left side, move the safety there, you go back to your right seam, and there's a receiver wide open. And on that specific play, both Jalen Reagor and Travis Fulgham were wide open on the left side of the field. But Carson has been very predetermined to go to a certain receiver before the snap all year long. And on that play, he must have decided he was throwing the ball to Dallas Goedert because he didn't even look in the direction of Fulgham and Reagor. And then secondarily to that, the throw, it's fine to throw to Goedert on that because he had Wagner beat by a step on the deep over. But because Carson, and if you freeze frame it, you'll see he overstrides a lot. That's a term for when the legs are kind of too spread out when you're making a throw. He overstrides on that, and because of that, he doesn't get his full torque into the throw, and that's why it was underthrown, and Bobby Wagner was there to tip it away instead of being thrown as a lead pass to the outside shoulder to Goedert, which would have been had he done that, it would have still been a good decision, even if he did ignore the other 2 guys open. But that's your combination of poor field vision, predetermining where you're going, and not having the right fundamentals at that moment to make the throw.
Okay, and I know the play you're talking about, and I've seen that as well. And see, like, now I believe you guys talked a little bit about the receivers, and a lot of people say, well, the receivers aren't open. They're not getting enough separation. That happens a lot. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like there are a ton of plays that the receivers are open. It's very quick, and they're not for big plays. It's 4 yards, 6 yards, 7 yards. But those are the plays that you need to make to keep drives going or shorten the down and distance. And those are simple plays that are, and it's like Greg Ward on a little curl or, those plays is where his indecisiveness, he makes a late decision when the guy is open, and then when he doesn't make that throw right away, it gives the defender that chance to close and now make that play nothing.
Yeah, I mean, remember the Cleveland play, right, where Jalen Reagor's wide open because nobody actually covered him, and Carson's looking at him, and he doesn't pull the trigger, and, Richard Rodgers misses the blitz on the cornerback, Denzel Ward. So Ward hits Wentz, who then tries to dump the ball off to Sanders. The ball floats in the air. Taki picks it off. It's a touchdown. That's a perfect example. He hesitated to make a throw to a receiver who could not be more open. And to me, that just shows you there's a lot going on in his head, because these are the type of throws. And cover 3, by the way, is when you have Ertz and Goddard on the field. I mean, Carson has carved up cover 3 for the last 2 years with Ertz and Goddard. So it's not like he's never seen this before. He's just suddenly lost within his own self, if that makes any sense. I mean, these are not mistakes that he's made in the past. These are just now things that have contributed to 2020 being a very befuddling year for everyone on the offense.
Oh, no doubt about it. There's definitely a lot going on in the mental side of the game for Carson Wentz. But I do want to get your thoughts on, and I know that you've said this before, and I agree with you. In this era of football, it's not all about running the ball. You got to throw it. It is a passing league, and you look around, that's how you successfully operate. But it does seem like they are really, I mean, for Miles Sanders to get 6 carries last game, that's unacceptable. So how can you get to this level of not using the run game?
I don't know, Hunter. I think we've seen Doug fall back on this before, that as soon as they get into an early hole, or as soon as a defense has some success against the run, that he decides to pass his way out of it. I mean, it looked to me in watching the tape that Seattle sold out. They do bring Jamal Adams into the box anyway because he's a great box safety, but they really did have a lot of guys at the line of scrimmage. And I think that Doug Pederson said, instead of trying to match that and go big up front and, go big on big and try to churn out some yards through the ground, he said, we're going to take advantage of lightness in the secondary and try to throw on it. And then obviously being down early only fueled that mentality. And I think that that's an error on Doug Pederson's part, one that we've seen before. And you're facing a Green Bay defense this week that has some talent on it, but for whatever reason, as the Eagles showed last year, they are vulnerable to the run. And even if they fall behind by 7 or 10 points in the first half, if they neglect and don't use Miles Sanders, then they'll be making a mistake again.
This is a week you would think, Jeff, based on what they did last year. I mean, people forget. I don't think they forget. I mean, it was one of the best performances offensive they had last year. They went to Green Bay on a Thursday night. They had lost 2 games in a row. People were down on this team, and they went up there. And that was the one game that made me say, I don't care that you lost to Miami, because I've seen you play. Your ceiling was up here against that Green Bay team. And I remember having those conversations with you last year, and it was that Green Bay game that made me feel like, you know what, on any given day, that's the level they could get to last year. And they ran the ball 33 times in that game. Jordan Howard had a big game. Miles Sanders had a big game. So does Doug Pederson look at that tape and say, that was the blueprint we used last year. We're going to do it again?
I mean, I think he can look at the blueprint and borrow some concepts, like I mentioned, about running the ball and trying to expose the center of their defense a little bit. But this is a different Green Bay team. This is a far more prolific offensive Green Bay team than the one from last year. It's just got so much more rhythm. And then even this is a far less prolific Eagles offense. So the idea that, Carson and I think Alshon had a big game that game, they're going to go out there and do what they did, or that you would bring up Jordan Howard, right, just for this game, which may happen, but run Jordan Howard 15 or 16 times because last year, he was able to carve them up. That to me is a stretch. I mean, you would hope that would be the case, but Jordan Howard is here because he averaged less than 2 yards per carry with the Dolphins, and I don't know what went on there, but it's not like throwing him into this offense is all of a sudden going to turn him into what he was before he left. If anything, this is probably a worse offense. So I think that they have to crawl before they walk, Mike. I think that they have to just basically be able to execute basic concepts. I do think they have to run to set up short third downs for Carson and try to get him, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, and then work the middle of the field in the passing game. I don't know how much last year can apply to this team, to be honest.
When it comes to Green Bay, obviously Devontae Adams is a threat that Aaron Rodgers is going to target. How do you think Darius Slay will match up against him, specifically because he just came off of that game against DK where he put a lot of blame on himself? Even though he was there for those 50-50 balls, he wasn't able to execute and finish.
Yeah, it's a good question. And because the two receivers that seemingly have given Darius Slay trouble this year are obviously DK Metcalf and Chase Claypool when they played the Steelers. And Claypool's another kind of tall, physical, lengthy guy. So it makes me wonder if Slay, who has long arms but is not one of the more physical, no, that's not true. He can play physical, but his game is just, he's got that rapid close and quickness to be able to stick with you. And I do wonder if the physical guys, though, like DK is and like Devontae Adams is, are going to be the guys that give him trouble. But they clearly also left him alone a lot and dedicated more resources in the secondary to coming up and stopping Russell Wilson. It'll be interesting to see if they feel like they have to do the same to Aaron Rodgers, who can get out of the pocket and run around a little bit, or if they'll back some of their guys up and play a little bit more spread out and try to neutralize what Devontae Adams does with multiple defenders, not just one.
Jeff, Ertz, it sounded to me today anyway that Pederson anticipated that he would play. If he does, Richard Rodgers has been pretty good. Goddard, has been one of his favorite targets. How do you incorporate Ertz? I mean, does that just mean Rodgers is out? What do do you go to what Chip Kelly said? Oh, I just put up 3 fingers and 3 tight ends go onto the field. How do they work this?
At this point, Mike, I know that we joke about that, but seeing how much Carson has thrown to Richard Rodgers and Dallas Goedert and how tight end centric this offense has been, maybe throwing those 3 fingers up ain't such a bad idea. I joke with Adam. Maybe they need to go to that 14 and 15 personnel offense and just put nothing but tight ends out there, and that might wake this offense up.
It's literally like what they went through last year with Perkins and Goddard and Ertz. I mean, you just had these guys running these short little routes, and he just completed passes, and these drives were painful to watch, but they were 16, 17 play drives.
Oh, I think anybody would take the dink and dunk offense right now. It doesn't matter if it's not explosive. Just give them an offense that moves the ball down the field and converts third downs. So. But yeah, I think with Ertz, when Goddard came back from his injury against Dallas, they used him mostly as a blocker. They didn't really have him running a whole lot of routes as much because they were really dedicated to running the ball. We know that Zach Ertz isn't a great blocker, so it's not like they're going to kind of put him in a blocking tight end role. But I think that he's going to play if he plays, but I don't think you'll see him out there for 70, 80, 90% of the snaps. I think he'll have to rotate in and out there with Richard Rodgers as the number 2 tight end.
All right, Geoff Mosher, the game Sunday, you can hear right here on 97.3 ESPN. The Inside the Birds guy will have the pregame show on their social media platforms starting at 1 o'clock on this Friday. Your thoughts on that game? How does it go?
Well, you know me, I'm like kind of that big ebb and flow guy and law of averages guy, and that's why I actually picked the Eagles to beat the Seahawks on Monday night. I thought there were so many, first they have their own losing streak this year was at 2 games, right? And then they had their losing streak to Russell Wilson where they had never beaten him before. So I thought that this would be that, they were going to surprise everybody. I didn't think they were going to be pretty, but I thought they were going to win. They did not. I'm not applying that concept. I should take that same philosophy like a good gambler would do and say, you know what? That streak's going to come to an end at some point. So it'll probably be this Sunday against Green Bay, but I'm not. I just don't see how they can outscore the Packers right now, who are playing really good football. Aaron Rodgers looks like the Aaron Rodgers of just like 10 years ago. And you're going up into Lambeau. And if anything, the law of averages says you don't win in Lambeau Field for 2 straight years. That just does not happen, beating Aaron Rodgers in his house. So I'm going to have to take the Packers probably a 31-17 like score.
Well, it's funny because I feel the same way you do at some point, just not this week. It's that one of these weeks, it's going to be, where has that been all year? It hasn't happened once in 11 weeks. Not once has it been like, hey, where's that been? And it's not going to be this week, in my opinion, but I agree with you. Geoff Mosher, don't forget, check out Inside Birds on Twitter. You can follow them there. Get the podcast. It drops Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6 o'clock in the morning. And then, of course, they have the Inside the Birds pregame show, which you should make sure you watch at 1 o'clock. And, of course, listen to the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Moshe, have a good weekend, pal.
Have a great weekend, fellas. Thanks.
All right, he, like August, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. Good to have him, of course, on Football at 4, which is brought to you by PlaySugarHouse.com. Sign up now. They'll match your first deposit up to $250. Go to PlaySugarHouse.com. Win real money with their sports book and casino games from the comfort of your home. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.